Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share a game that was played at the Parma Chess Club actually a couple months ago in May. And this game was um, against Steven Kirkendall. And I forget his rating at the time, but I want to say it was probably about 1800. And I think my rating was probably about, 1650 or somewhere in that range. And I wanted to look at this game because I analyzed it just now over the board, and it's a great game, and it's one that I personally want to remember. But I also think it's worth sharing because we have sort of a classic King's Indian type game here, so it's pretty fun, pretty scary for me, and but yeah, I want to see what I can learn from this, and especially prepare something for him next time. Maybe do a little better. So let's get started. I started the game with the move e4. And actually, I screwed this up in the notation. I put d4, but it actually opened with e4. But it's going to transpose, so it's fine. He went g6. I played d4, and then he went bishop g7. So yeah, the way the game actually went was like this. e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, like this. But it transposes. And okay, so this is a modern, and I have very limited knowledge in this line, and he actually told me before the game that he really wanted to get me out of books, so I guess this was what he had in mind. So I play knight f3 because I figure in almost all cases I want my knight on f3, and he played d6, and I'm like, huh. And I was wondering if I could transpose this into like some King's Indian lines that I know. So I went with the move c4. So not a typical move. It's saying that this is the Neo-Old Indian modern variation. And when I analyzed this game with National Master Mike Jolson, he told me, why don't you play it like a king pawn? He said, why don't you play knight c3? And I think next time maybe I will. And I guess the idea is going to be to do something like bishop e2, bishop e3, queen d2, and maybe go this way. So this might be something that I consider next time. But I instead was trying to get, a structure that I was familiar with, and so I could do that with c4. So okay. From here he went knight d7. Kind of a weird move. I mean, really, I'd expect like knight f6, but probably he was doing this to keep me out of stuff I know still. Because, it's not a true King's Indian with the knight still here. That's for sure. This knight could still come to the e7 square. Okay, and I went knight c3, and he played e5, so striking at the center. This feels a little early to do this, but sure enough, this is theory, and it's called the modern Averbach variation with e5 on move 4. And I feel like I have some options against this. Like, I could ignore this pawn break and just play something like bishop e2, maybe even bishop e3. I could play that. I could do bishop g5. I can even play g3, which kind of wish I did that in the game. Because again, I play the fianchetto variation of the King's Indian, so this probably would have worked out a little better for me had I gone into this. And, and you're allowing this capture, but it's totally fine to do so. The knight is defending. So, okay, but in the game, I decided I would try something different, and I played the move d5. Very standard King's Indian move. Um, One thing to note, though, is that with the knight here, maybe this move isn't quite as good. It's still theory. But my thought is that if the knight were on c6, this move would come with tempo and kind of inconvenience the knight. But when you push d5 here, I'm basically just giving this knight the c5 square right away. So I'm securing space, but, that knight, he's going to come into c5. Then again, I think he was coming in anyway, because, let's say I go bishop e2. He could take, and after takes, he could still jump in anyway, and he's on my pawn. So, okay, d5. And now finally he develops his knight to f6. So it really feels like a King's Indian at this point. I would call it that. And here I thought I made the first mistake of the game, but what's funny is that the computer actually likes this move. That's strange. Probably doesn't like my follow-up though. Yeah, I played the move bishop d3. In hindsight, I like the bishop better on e2. But the computer is supporting this move. The thing is, now knight c5 comes with tempo against this bishop, so that's what I don't like about it. But I was thinking I want to overprotect my e-pawn because knight c5 is coming, and that's two guys on it. And, eventually f5 will be played. So I was just defending this, basically, with this move. But okay, he castled now, and I also castled. And sure enough, knight c5 makes a lot of sense. So here's where I should drop the bishop back. I should, this seems so obvious now in hindsight. It's funny how when you're at the board, you can have so many ideas in your head that maybe you are willing to make a concession like this, but in hindsight, I don't think I would do this. I think bishop c2 is the correct move. Just drop the bishop back. And I like whenever there is two ranks between these pieces because, my bishop's sort of dominating this knight. And, this knight is not stable here. I can play b4 at some point. So bishop c2 makes a lot of sense. But I did not play that. I was terrified of bishop g5. I remember this now. And let's see how bad that would really be. So in the game, I play h3, just stopping this move. I didn't like this move because since my bishop's on d3, I felt like I'd have to move it again and admit that I put him on the wrong square. But let's look at this. So let's say I do go, let's say knight c5, bishop c2. Now if bishop g5, is there some retaliation? I don't know. I guess h3 now. Now, I saw this line during the game. I recall this. And it seems like, bishop h5 and this bishop's going to get trapped. But I was actually kind of scared of this line. Yeah, computer agrees that this is playable. I don't know that I want to deal with this. It just seems like my pieces are all awkward. And now I really need to defend my king. And I'm not sure how I do it. So I think rightfully so, I didn't go for that. Also, can he take on h3? No, I don't think so. Computer's actually saying the best move is to take the knight, though. And I think I would have welcomed this. Yeah, I think I would welcome this sort of thing. So one idea behind this is that this bishop often bears down on this h-pawn, and black's going to throw their king pawns. They're going to move the knight, maybe here, play f5, and try to get like g4 and sometimes even g3 in. And a lot of times, as those pawns are rushing down, this bishop can just sacrifice and you get checkmated. So I would like this line with this bishop gone. I think that's a little bit better for me. But okay. In the game, after knight c5, I went h3. So I wanted to stop this move, this bishop g5, but it seems like maybe that wasn't a problem after all. And he took here, which he should. So now he secured the bishop pair. And yeah, I don't know what role that bishop plays, and that's probably why I was okay with him trading it. Like, notice, for example, my pawns are on light squares and it's a locked center. So maybe it's not that bad losing the bishop, but I think overall I should have kept him. The other thing is that I think the queen may be misplaced on this d3 square. I think so because, well, I am going to have to move her again. All right, so now my opponent played bishop d7. That seems slow. I think the bishop's okay to just stay here. I mean, he basically is already having some, pressure on this pawn and on my king side. I think black should go knight h5 right away. Computer agrees. But he played this, so that kind of gives me a tempo, I'd say, a little bit. And okay, I have to decide how I want to finish my development. I still have my bishop here, but I think my guy needs to move because eventually I'm going to want my rook on c1 and open the c file if I can and get play down the queen side. It's going to be sort of a race. Black's going to continue their play on my king side, and I'm going to play on the queen side and hope to break through in time before I get checkmated. Fun times. All right, so I decided to go with this line, and I've seen the computer do stuff like this before. It doesn't seem to like it in this case, and I am going to agree, and I'll explain why. I played bishop g5 to sort of induce this, and then I thought after bishop e3 and knight h5, which was played in the game, I wanted to play queen d2, so attacking this pawn, he has to play king h7 to defend it. And I thought this was helpful for me because now my queen's on a better square and my bishop's on a better square. And I thought maybe the inclusion of these moves wouldn't be good for him, but I think in hindsight, I think it is good for him. He wants to put his rook on g8 and he wants to play f5 and probably take with the G pawn, opening the G file and bearing down. So I think maybe getting the king out of the way like this, giving him a square first of all on h7, and then allowing him to move like this was probably not the correct plan. So let's look at this for a second. What would be a better plan? Well, the computer is suggesting a cute move. The move c5 right away. I like this idea. This is really cool. And this is something I don't remember because it looks like, it's not prepared. But if black were to try to take this pawn, then guess what? This other one drops. We just undefended it. So that's kind of cute. And I would definitely welcome a continuation like this. So after c5, black can't really take, and we got our c5 break in. Now we're going to take and take, move our bishop and play rook ac1, and maybe we'll have play down the file soon. I don't know. But certainly we need to make progress here. So c5 immediately is the correct plan. Is there anything else? Let me see what else the computer likes. Queen d1. Queen d1. Okay, why would I play queen d1? I don't know. It's possible we want to bring the queen out this way. That's possible. And another move is b3, a3, rook e1. Yeah, I don't know. These are all moves I don't necessarily understand. But okay. In the game, bishop g5 was played. And this whole thing. So knight h5. So, you know, at this point, I wasn't sure until this point, but I was like, wow. Usually when I get a King's Indian, black plays like c5 and stuff. But then again, like my structure is usually different. I usually have a pawn on g3 and a bishop on g2. And it is known that it's more difficult to attack the king side in that structure. So maybe that is why in my typical games, especially at Parma, black plays like in the center and on the queen side. It plays like c5 and never plays e5. So like after knight h5 though, I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is going to be a real King's Indian. He's about to throw f5 at me. You know, and I was a little bit nervous, but let's see how I handle it. All right, so I was hitting this and he played here. And I played rook ac1. And that seems like a reasonable move. So again, I'm wondering about c5, but now it doesn't work because if c5, now he can take it because I don't have this move. It's defended by the bishop. So, okay. And as for other moves, again, queen d1 is a move, and I'm not exactly sure why. It seems like the queen just goes to e2 after that in the line, but queen e2 is also a line, or a move here. So I'm wondering if maybe we want this square for the knight. That could be. So it might be something like that. Yeah, in fact, I am aware that often f3 is played, and then the bishop can come to f2. So maybe that was a plan that I should have considered. And that way you have two pawns stopping g4 from being played later. But then again, that would give up the g3 square to the knight. So I don't know. These are all ideas. I've got lots of ideas, right? No precision. All right, so rook ac1, and here's the problem. I wanted to play c5, but I figured black's going to play f5. And after f5, what do? Ben Feingold always says, you know, always play e takes f5. So let's say I do that. He can take with the g-pawn. And am I worried about these pushes? Oh, no, this looks a little threatening. Like, okay, you know what? I think my calculation was actually wrong because I thought if I take here, I was worried about this move. But I think now I have bishop c5. And this might be winning. Because this pawn cannot be captured now. I would take, and I'm on the rook. So, okay. I would be up a pawn, and now it looks like things are broken open on the queen side. I'm going to do pretty well. So, all right. In the game, I played rook ac1 because I was worried about f5. So I did not calculate that right during the game, is my understanding now. I think I should have went ahead with c5. Computer says queen d1, queen e2, rook ae1. So very strange. I'm not sure what that's all about. Okay, but I played this way. f5. Now, I took the pawn because I didn't really want to see f4 show up. That would trap my bishop. So I took here. He took. And now queen c2. So this is my idea to stop the f4 push. And if he wants to play e4, he can do that. But then that does give a nice square to my knight. And then maybe I can come in here at some point. So, okay. So I've got this pin now. He went bishop f6. Yeah, and I think he's just clearing the g file. And he wants to put his rook on g8. Let's see what the computer says to do. Computer actually likes the e4 move. So like, let's say e4. So maybe this isn't as good as I hoped. Knight d4. Yes, this is what I planned. Oh, and queen h4. I did not foresee that move. It's a little nerve-wracking. Yeah, I mean, so I think the problem is he's going to play king h1, and when he does, this pawn will not be pinned anymore, and this is coming, and then this is coming. So that looks fun. Yeah, queen h4. Okay, but he played bishop f6, so he's just... Unfortunately, this stops queen h4, so maybe he shouldn't have played this way. He should have played e4, kick the knight away, and queen h4. But he wanted to play rook g8. Now, I have to admit, in this part of the game, I wasn't sure how to continue. I guess c5 is still a move. Computer is not giving c5, but let's say I played this. It says he can just take it. And now when I take, I'm on the rook, yes, but this is where the rook wants to be, right here. Although, you know, looking at this now, I like this better than the game continuation because at least I have some sort of play happening. I don't know how much I really have, but it's something. In the game, I played knight h2, and this has to be a mistake. My idea was I'm going to throw f4, but turns out that plan is also not very good. I mean, it is true that if you're worried about someone playing a move like f4, one of the best ways to do that is to play it yourself. So that was kind of my idea with that. Now, if you'd like to answer this question, what is wrong with that idea? Well, the problem with a move like knight h2 is that it fails to understand this position, which is black is going to be attacking me on the king side, and the only real way to refute an attack like that is to make progress on the queen side. Knight h2, that makes no progress on the queen side at all. So I remember thinking during the game that I just felt like my attack was too slow, so I gave up on it and decided I would bunker down and defend. But after analyzing this game, I was informed that that's not a good idea, that I should proceed with my play on the queen side. So, okay, so knight h2 is, I'd give that a question mark. It's just the wrong plan. And black played king h8. So this pawn is free to move now. And this is funny, but he sacked this pawn. So this was on purpose. I took it. I mean, what else am I going to do, right? I guess I could play c5. What does the computer want? Well, the materialistic computer wants to take it, of course. It also gives king h1, just get off the g file. And it also gives bishop d2. So just so this move doesn't come with tempo. Makes sense. But I took the pawn because I'm like, well, I'm hitting the rook. I knew he'd play this move. And now I went queen e2. So attack the knight. He can't go here because I will take. So I thought this is a little annoying for him. But he played a really good move here. It's kind of funny that I didn't see this move. Queen e8. So this is good because he wants to defend the knight, obviously. But now the queen is going to come to g6, and that looks really uncomfortable. So now I was getting kind of scared. My bishop's also kind of misplaced, you know, so I don't know. The computer says black is pretty much winning at this point, so that's scary. During the game, I knew I was probably a little worse, but I didn't know it was that dire. Okay, and I'm up a pawn even, and it's saying -2, so there you go. I played bishop d2, and I'm kind of going to fly through the rest of the game because I think this video is long enough, but I really thought those middle game plans and ideas were really interesting and good to go over. But now you're going to see how black executes their attack on me. And actually, they kind of mess it up, so I will criticize it a little, but I do lose this game. Full spoiler alert. So bishop d2, queen g6. So now this is under attack, and this is my plan to go f4. I mean, what else is there? But again, f4 is not the right idea, and this move actually, even though it's the only move that holds it together, according to the computer, because I have to defend this pawn, it is going to allow this move, knight g3, with a fork. So that's unfortunate. And after queen f2, he decided not to take the rook, which is a mistake. You really should just take the rook. But instead, he plays c5. So, looking back at this, I was afraid to take because I really felt like this helped his pieces. You know, the computer says I should take, but, you know, now this bishop is in the game, even though he was kind of in the game before. And not only that, but he could put his rook here and maybe push like this too. So I don't know. I didn't want to help him attack more, so I allowed this to be closed and played rook fu1. I mean, if you don't want to take my rook, I'll move it away. Makes sense. So, okay, he came in like this. Now he's threatening to take this way, and he will be bringing his rook in, which was previously on a8, so probably a good move. And now this is funny, but there's a move that actually holds it together for white that I didn't know about. It's the move knight f3. So knight f3 brings this knight back into the game. He wasn't doing much on h2, not much at all. And I guess, yeah, I'm not sure what the idea is with the knight. Well, it does stop anything from coming to the h4 square, so maybe that's part of it. And even the g5 square. So I'm thinking that's why that move is good. Computer wants to play for black. Rook g7 followed by tripling. Yeah, that would be scary. Don't know about that. Don't know how I would survive. But let's continue. I played knight e2 in the game. I was just trying to trade the knight off. But I failed to see a winning move for black, knight e4. This would win on the spot. He's hitting my queen and the bishop, and I don't really have a way to defend it. If I move this away, then that's really unfortunate because he can just checkmate me. So I can't do that. So I'd have to play like queen f1. But now this, you know, so queen f2. How about this again? Yeah, I don't know. Queen f3. Rook g7. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is just lost. So in the game, though, after knight e2, he did play this move. Bishop h4. It looks threatening. So I played I played knight f1 in the game. I am looking at knight f3 now because it attacks the bishop. So if there's any discoveries, I could take the bishop. Like, I'm wondering about this. This looks kind of interesting, doesn't it? Because let's say he goes like knight e4. I don't think this works. I take the bishop with check. So it's really like the knight is pinned, and I'm threatening the bishop. He could throw this in with check, I guess. But now I take it back with the queen. I'm still on the bishop. He can take the rook. Yeah, I don't know. And am I holding here? I'm not really sure. I mean, I think he should play this. So now the rook's on my queen, and then queen f2. So I don't know. Black's attack seems like a little bit watered down now. So I may have survived the worst of it in this line. But okay. I went bishop f1 because I recognized the knight was pinned, so I attacked it. But he did take with check. And I took. And this time he took the rook right away. So there you go. And then just like I was saying, he played this, queen f2, traded. And I threw in this check just to force the king in between these two pieces. Kind of relieves the mate threat for a second. At least it does that. And I was like really dying for like a perpetual here. But I thought, you know, I'd love to play something like queen e7 check. I'm not even sure it works, but I have to retake the rook first. So I did take it, and he played rook e8. Yeah, and I went here. And what's interesting is that the computer says black is only slightly better here, even though I'm down in exchange. So that is surprising, but in the game, he did manage to convert this. So yeah, and of course I was in time pressure, like I always am, but I think we both were towards the end. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this game. I'm not going to go over the highlights because I feel like this is a long one. But I hope you learned something, and thanks so much for watching. Take care.